Whenever Shadur Sanders does anything, it turns into a national debate. Every move, every quote, every action he takes becomes a target for critique. The conversation around him isn't just about football anymore. It's about how he carries himself, how he talks, how he dares to believe in himself. That's what makes his story both fascinating and frustrating because, while most young quarterbacks are given time to grow, Shedeur is forced to defend his very existence in the league. Cam Newton knows that better than most. The former MVP and one-time lightning rod for criticism has been vocal lately about what's really happening with Shadur. Newton, who once joined the chorus of skeptics, is now calling out the NFL and the media for what he calls a pattern of disrespect. He's come forward saying that Shedeur isn't just another player under the microscope. He's a player under a system that seems intent on controlling his narrative. According to Cam, what's happening here is unprecedented. Shadur Sanders, a fifth-round third-string quarterback, is somehow generating more national conversation and fan support than several starters across the league. For most players, that would be a good thing, proof that fans see something special. But for Shadur, it's become ammunition for critics. Newton argues that this level of attention on a backup QB has made certain people inside the league uncomfortable. The owners, the analysts, the so-called gatekeepers of the NFL brand. They don't like the fact that fans are rallying around someone who refuses to fit their mold. They can't control his image. They can't box in his confidence. And that, Cam says, is why the pushback feels so personal. He's right. When you look closely at how the media treats Shedeur, it's clear there's a different set of rules at play. Whenever he does something, whether it's a celebration, a confident quote, or even just showing up with the same swagger he's always had, the reactions are overblown. When other quarterbacks show personality, they're called charismatic leaders. When Shedeur does it, he's called cocky. When other players bet on themselves, it's ambition. When Shedeur does it, it's arrogance. The double standard has been obvious for a while. But Cam Newton, saying it out loud, gave it weight. He's seen how this game is played. He's lived it. And now he's making it clear that Shedeur is walking a path that mirrors his own. One where confidence becomes controversy and individuality becomes defiance. Newton didn't hold back when he said that the league seems uneasy with Shadur's growing popularity. In his words, you may not like how he does it, but you can't control it. That's the heart of this issue. The NFL has always loved its clean-cut underdog stories as long as those players stay humble, predictable, and grateful. But Shadur, he's not playing that game. He's proud, he's loud, and he's not ashamed of the name on his back or the father who raised him. And that alone has made him a target. We've seen this before. When Dillon Gabriel, another young quarterback, made a thinly veiled jab at Shedeur earlier this preseason, calling him more of an entertainer than a competitor, the sports world barely blinked. There was no outrage, no social media storm, no talking heads questioning Gabriel's professionalism. Instead, the conversation shifted to defending him. Colin Cowherd even went on air insisting that Gabriel wasn't taking a shot at Shedeur at all, that he was actually criticizing the media. But anyone who saw that interview knew exactly who he was talking about. Then there's Rex Ryan, one of the loudest voices in sports media, who decided to take direct aim at Shedeur, claiming he isn't working hard enough to earn a starting spot. It wasn't constructive criticism. It was a shot, plain and simple. And it came across like an attempt to remind Shedeur of his place. That's what rubbed people the wrong way. Ryan's tone wasn't about helping a young player grow. It was about putting him back in line. And that's exactly what Cam Newton was talking about. He said the system has a way of punishing confidence, especially from players who don't fit the image the league wants to promote. Shadur's rise is being met not with celebration, but with resistance. And the more his fan base grows, the more that resistance hardens. Cam's comments hit especially hard because of where they're coming from. This is a man who once stood on top of the NFL, only to watch how quickly the league turned on him when he didn't conform. When he danced, when he smiled, when he celebrated, he was labeled a distraction. Now he's watching the same thing happen to Shedeur, the son of one of the most confident athletes the world has ever known, and he's calling it for what it is. Systemic bias disguised as analysis. He pointed out that Shedeur's confidence shouldn't be vilified. It's a reflection of his upbringing, his father's influence, and his own belief that greatness isn't something you wait for, it's something you take. But the NFL, Cam says, seems uncomfortable with a player who walks that line so openly. They want him to play the part of a backup, to blend in, to act grateful for the crumbs, but Shedeur refuses. And for that, they're trying to humble him. "You should be embarrassed that you're not the quarterback now," one analyst sneered. Taking cheap shots at his frustrations after Joe Flacco was put and Dylan Gabriel was put in the game? That kind of comment says everything. Shedeur's every emotion is used against him. His ambition is spun as ego. His confidence becomes controversy. And yet, through it all, he hasn't backed down. He continues to show up, work, and carry himself like a man who knows where he's headed. Because for Shedeur, this isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving himself right. The truth is, Shadur Sanders represents a shift in how athletes control their own image. He's not waiting for approval. He's using his voice, his following, and his platform to tell his own story. That's power. And power, especially in a system built on conformity, is always going to make people nervous. That's why Cam Newton's change of heart matters. It's not just about defending Shedeur. It's about acknowledging a bigger issue, the way the league treats outspoken black quarterbacks who dare to have confidence before they have rings. The pattern is there for anyone who wants to see it. And for Cam to admit that after once being part of that criticism shows real growth. Because when a player like Cam Newton, who once shouldered that same weight, now stands up and says, "This isn't fair," it forces people to listen. He's saying that Shedeur's confidence shouldn't be something that needs to be defended. It should be respected. The media will continue to twist stories, to amplify small mistakes, and to downplay his moments of grace. But fans see through it. The support for Shedeur is real. It's passionate. And that's what makes this story more than just another sports headline. It's about culture, identity, and control. At the end of the day, this is bigger than football. It's about a young man who refuses to be defined by the expectations of others. A player who carries his father's legacy with pride, but is carving out his own name with every practice, every throw, every moment of resilience. So, when Cam Newton says that Shedeur is being treated unfairly, he's not exaggerating. He's telling the truth that many won't admit. And maybe, just maybe, this time people will finally start paying attention to what's really happening. Because Shadur Sanders isn't just fighting for a starting job. He's fighting for respect. And no matter how loud the critics get, no matter how many narratives they try to spin, one thing remains undeniable. It's not backing down. What do you think about the way the media and the NFL are treating Shadur Sanders? Do you believe there's a double standard at play? One that punishes confidence while praising conformity? And now that even Cam Newton is speaking out, does it change how the public should see this story? Let us know in the comments, because this conversation is far from over.